All right. Now we're going to talk about Kapila and his dad. And at the end of yesterday, I had asked you if you thought that Kapila's father, who is a Vishnu Bhakta, who's a devotee of Vishnu, was going to hang around now that Kapila has been born, or if he's going to leave and go meditate like he promised or intended to do. And your answers to me in the comments were kind of 50-50. Most of you lean towards the idea that he's going to leave. And some of you, one or two of you, gave really a perfect answer for exactly the reason. Now, I'm going to read what is in the book, and if necessary, give you some additional explanation. So, right, the part, some people say, well, he's going to be dutiful and fulfill his responsibilities as a father. Well, he already did. Before entering this relationship, he specified what his duties would be, and that was agreed upon, and he fulfilled those duties. And in fact, he did more than that, because he even made sure that all of his daughters were happily married. So he's actually already done more than required by moral standards. So that's not an issue. So let's see what he does. Is his age mentioned? Well, these guys are not humans. So I mean, he spent 100 years just making these babies. Okay. All right. So here we go. Kardama's reply. Kardama. Now, what's going to happen is Kapila's born a little bit after the 9 daughters. The 9 daughters get married and go to live with the husbands. Kapila grows up a little bit. So he does stay around a bit, but we don't know how fast these things happen. For example, because they're gods and they don't have to wait for things to go through ordinary human courses. For example, like it was mentioned that she didn't have any gestation for any of the 9 daughters, although she will for Kapila. So anyway, we don't know how fast it is, but at this point of the story, the girls are married, the sisters are married, the son is relatively grown because they're going to have an adult conversation right now. But again, that could happen at a pretty young age since it's a Vishnu avatar. So we don't know how much longer in terms of years Kardama stayed there, but this is the next conversation in the story. Kardama knew that his son was Vishnu. Well, how did he know? Because Vishnu told him prior to this whole thing happening. Prior to all of the child making, Vishnu had an audience with Kardama and said, I'll become your son. So in a private place, he bowed down. So he took his son Kapila aside, someplace private, and he bowed down. This is now weird. I don't know if you noted this, but this is weird. It's not really in the bhava or the mood of a father to bow to his son, because the father is the senior and the protector and everything, and the more knowledgeable. It's in the mood, it's in the inherent nature of the mood for the son to bow to the father, not for the father to bow to the son. This is why Kardama took him to a private spot. He doesn't want to confuse people or make people do behavior which draws attention. But this also shows you that he has not really ever accepted the concept that Vishnu is his son. He just doesn't accept that concept. And there'll be some interesting things I'll have to say to explain that point to you clearly. Now let's see what he continues to say. So now he's going to talk to Kapila. Oh, he exclaimed, People who wallow in their own foul deeds try to appease your divinity, but it certainly takes a very long time. So people who are stuck in their own misbehavior, they often still try to get things from Vishnu. And they can do that, but it takes a very long time. So that's the way that people that are called karmis, or selfish people, they also do religious things and worship God, but they do it for their own purposes, and it's kind of elaborate and difficult. Then he talks about renunciates or jnanis. Renunciates retreat into seclusion seeking your feet, but they see them only in a trance, and only after many lifetimes dedicated to evolving their discipline. So he says, karmis, people that are materialistic, they have some kind of relationship with you. They worship you to get materialistic stuff. And it's kind of an elaborate, drawn-out process that doesn't really produce any exciting fruits. Philosophers, they also have a relationship with you, but it's pretty theoretical. Everything about how they comprehend you is in their meditation, and it's in their trance, and it's in their mystic vision, and nothing is really tangible. And it takes forever for them to develop their perception to be able to be on that level. Now he continues, but somehow, so Vishnu, obviously Vishnu then is a person with whom everybody can has a relationship and can relate, but with whom it's very rare to have an actual, tangible, direct, intimate relationship. See, Simone, you guys are lucky, I think, because you are hearing the Bhagavatam, so you're getting this. You're getting the right thing. Simone's comment's very interesting. So now he's going to continue. So Vishnu is somebody, like, everybody's related to Vishnu, but very few people have tangible, direct, intimate relationship with Vishnu. That's the point that he's making. And he says, yet somehow the all-attractive Bhagavan has appeared of his own accord. I didn't make any effort specifically for this. You did it. In my very ordinary home. There's nothing special about my home. They're not in the palace anymore. In my very ordinary home, ignoring my utter disqualification and raising me to the status of his own father. So he's like expressing how grateful and appreciative he is of the situation. People worship God forever and ever and ever and ever with big fancy churches and temples and tons of rituals and ceremonies and incense and all this stuff. And they still hardly get anything from God. People, philosophize and meditate and do all these austerities for lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes, and they still hardly perceive him. But now all of a sudden God just comes and becomes a person in my house, making me his father. What kind of a Lotto 6 is that? That's like a Lotto 976 million. That's the kind of odds. Now he says, I know you've descended into my home to fulfill the promise you made to me, and I know your ultimate purpose is to establish valid knowledge of the all-attractive. Even though he is beyond the delimitation of form, the all-attractive appears in such beautiful forms, just to delight his own beloved devotees. He has no need for a form, but he has a want for a form. There's no need for it, but he enjoys it, because it's enjoyable. The all-attractive appears in beautiful forms for the sake of delight and love. It's a little important point that he throws and tacks on there at the end. Okay, so we still don't know what's going to happen. We still don't know if it's A, he's going to leave, or B, he's going to stay. Kind of seems like it's leaning towards A because he bowed down to him in the beginning. Divine beings strive to understand the truth about you. Your feet are the root of all things that eternally deserve love and respect. You possess majesty, neutrality, glory, wisdom, potency, and beauty more fully than any other being. Interesting. Didn't really realize this was tucked away in the Bhagavatam, this succinct statement. I mean, I translated this, but I guess it skipped my mind. Or I forgot it. You possess majesty, neutrality. This is a definition of the term Bhagavan, which is typically only ascribed to Parashar. Parashar in Vishnu Purana defines the word Bhagavan in a very specific way by saying the generic definition for Bhagavan is the possessor or van of bhaga, pleasure and enjoyment. But Parashar says there's actually 6 potencies of enjoyment. And the reason why we call this person Bhagavan, everybody possesses some amount of these 6 potencies of pleasure and enjoyment. But Bhagavan possesses them in infinite, unlimited depth and quality and extent. And he specifies the 6. Kardama here gives the same 6. These are the 6 things that enable us to enjoy life, or that are enjoyable in life. Majesty, which is Aishwaryam. Neutrality, which is Vairagyam. Because you need to be able to relax and let go as well as cling on. Majesty, neutrality, glory, which is like Viryam. Oh, no, that's potency. Glory is kind of like wealth. Wisdom. You have to know how to do things and what things are. Potency, power or energy. And beauty. More fully than any other being, I give myself to you. Your personality is the supreme origin, beyond the singularity, beyond time itself, beyond the sun, beyond the 3 forces of nature, beyond the guardians of the universe. All these phenomena proceed from and recede into you. Kirti is fame. All these phenomena proceed from and recede into you. Fame is a result of these things. I'm not sure. I always forget what the 6 ones are. You alone are independently powerful. I give myself to you, Kapila. Okay, wow, cool. Now, as usual, after a long introductory thing, the person says what they need to say. So there's going to be one short paragraph now where he actually says what he needs to say. This is so different than the Mars-oriented way that we live today, where we just get right to the point. In the Venus-oriented world of culture, you don't get right to the point because you don't want your point to be in the wrong context or misunderstood. So you spend a lot of effort to make sure that correct context is established before you say the 5-second thing that you need to say. It drives us modern people a little bit crazy, unless you're Japanese. Japanese culture still does this. All right, now, the final thing, the thing that he really called Kardama Muni, the thing that he really called Kapila aside to say. Thanks to you, I fulfilled my duties and desires. Now I want to ask if I might accept the lifestyle of a mendicant, wandering without grief, holding you in my heart. So there's your answer. He's going to do A, but he wants to make sure that Vishnu, Kapila, wants him to do A. Or was that A or B? I can't remember. The one he's going to leave. He wants to leave. He's like, okay, I did everything I said I was going to do. Now I want to be a mendicant because I want to have you in my heart. Why do you want to have him in your heart? He's right in front of your face. This confuses people. We'll talk about it. Since this confuses people, many commentators have explained it threadbare, luckily. Now, here's Kapila's reply. Leave was B. Then most of you got it wrong. You are right, the all-attractive Kapila replied. My words are the factual foundation of reality. That's pretty amazing. My words are the factual foundation of reality. Whatever I say is true. Like, whatever I say is true. Because my words are the foundation of truth. Thus, since I told you I would become your son, I have not done so. And you are also correct that I have my own reasons as well. I've become your son to help those who strive to become free from suffering. I didn't just become your son for you. I also had my own selfish reason, which is to help other people. For them, I will elaborately explain the, and particularly that's Devahuti. First on the list. His mother. For them, I will elaborately explain the science of reality. He's going to elaborately explain it. It's going to be good, and the whole detail is going to be given. For them, I will elaborately explain the science of reality, esteemed by those who can see the self. The scientific path to the self is subtle, and long stretches of time have completely erased it. I've accepted this incarnation to restore it. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata tadadmanam tadadmanam srijamyaham. Abhyutanam dharmasya tadadmanam srijamyaham. From this basic concept established in Gita is that the general purpose for avatars in general is to replace things that have been erased in relation to the Vedas. So what he's saying here is the science which scientific thought which enables self-realization has disappeared from existence and has not been reinstated yet. So I'm here to do that. That's his mission. Yes, he continues, you may now go and fulfill your desire for renunciation. You will conquer unconquerable mortality and will attain immortal love for me. You will be able to see with your soul that I am the mysterious self-effulgent principle of sentience itself, dwelling within the core of all beings. Seeing this, you will have no more grief or fear. See what he's telling him? You will be able to see with your soul. That means unmitigated unmitigated perception, or it's called direct intuition, where the experience is not processed by intermediaries like intellect and senses or anything like that. It's a direct consciousness can experience Bhagavan direct, without extraneous tools. So he's saying you will be able to see with your soul that I am the mysterious self-effulgent principle of sentience itself. That's called Brahman. Brahman is a mysterious because it's not fully describable. Self-effulgent, it means it's the source of its own self and energy. It doesn't derive energy or existence from anywhere else. Principle of sentience itself, consciousness itself, Brahman. That's me. Kapila says, you'll be able to see it through your meditations and your endeavors now. As a renunciate, you will be able to directly see that Brahman is me. And that I am the essence and the core of everything. Seeing this, you'll have no more grief or fear. Relinquish all your responsibilities by entrusting them to me. This is what has to happen, actually. You see, you see the thing about men, and my friend is on the group, is in the group right now. We just studied Mars yesterday. The thing about Mars or men is that it always breaks out. And it always breaks out and goes in its own direction. So men love to leave. They love to leave. They don't like to stay for too long. And so you always see these spiritual men constantly leaving. They just leave. And because they're spiritual, then they give it a spiritual name. I'm leaving to become more spiritual. But the way that it's done in Vedic culture is you leave after you're finished. It still admits, all right, men want to leave. But leave after you're done, not before you're done. If you're not done until you can give all of your responsibilities to somebody else who can take care of them. This is generally why a husband wants a son. He wants at least one son. because he's not going to be able to pass on any of his duties. He's got male duties. He needs another male who's younger than him so that he can at one point pass on his male duties to another male in the family and leave. But you see all these so-called spiritual people, they just leave. They don't give a damn if their duties are fulfilled, if they have blessings from anybody, if anybody agrees or doesn't agree, if there's anybody to take care of what they leave behind. They don't care. And then they think that that's going to give them good karma or spiritual enlightenment. It's not going to give you anything except a birth as a wife who doesn't get taken care of. In fact, it'll give you 10 of those births. So this is not the case with Kardama. He's not running away. He took care of his wife opulently. He gave her 9 daughters. He made sure the daughters were married. He gave her a son. Now he's entrusting his responsibilities to his son, asking his son for permission, having already had permission from his wife since the beginning of the relationship. And now he's going to go. This is the proper way to do it. So he says, okay, you can do this. You can give me all your responsibilities. Don't worry about your wife. I will teach her this spiritual science, nullifying all her karma. Thus she will also cross beyond fears. So have no fear about Devuti, and I'll take care of her. And all of the blessing that you were supposed to give her, I'm going to give her. Kermit says, but it's hard to follow in this yuga. The thing that you shouldn't really be following in this yuga is sannyas. Sannyas is not for Kali Yuga. But people see sannyas as freedom. Sannyas is freedom. Sannyas is not freedom. Sannyas is slavery. It's not meant to be freedom. It's meant to be the opposite of freedom. It's meant to be absolute dedication. So if something is hard in Kali Yuga, then don't do it. It's not necessary. There would never be a situation where something that is necessary is impossible to do. All right, so now Kardama is going to leave, and I think I have to explain it at this point. Now, let's get to the end of the chapter. Why Miss Vinay wants to know, why do they need to move? It's because men are energetic. And energy just doesn't like to stand still. And energy doesn't like to have bounds on it. It just comes with the territory. It's like saying why is salt salty? Why is water wet? Why do men need independence? Need to leave? Because that's what a man is. It's energy. Male's got so much energy. It doesn't want to be constrained. You won't be able to. Kermit says, well, if we don't do the sannyas thing, how are we going to be able to focus on spirituality? That's ridiculous. You won't be able to focus on spirituality if you do the sannyas thing. Focus on spirituality by coming on YouTube and listening to the Bhagavatam class. You do kirtan. That's how you really focus on it. Kirtan, Shravanam Kirtanam. You listen and you discuss Bhagavan. You don't need to be in a forest, outside of a forest, in a cave, not in a cave, in a dress, not in a dress. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. There's another reason why these kind of behaviors feel so weird, because they're completely out of their historical place right now. I'm going to take sannyas. I'm going to the forest. Goodbye. Just feels so weird. It doesn't belong in this age. It doesn't match anything else about this age. You don't have any other qualifications to do. Where are you even going to go? Where are you even going to go? You go anywhere, you'll get arrested. All right. Let me explain to you, back to the point about, let me explain to you the heart of Kardama Muni, which has been explained by the commentators. So the commentators like Jiva Goswami and Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, they've explained this really threadbare. So they say we would be inclined to have a misconception about Kardama. The misconception is that Kardama is not exactly a bhakta. That actually he seems to be more of a jnani, because he prefers renunciation to living directly with Vishnu. And he prefers to experience Vishnu in meditation rather than directly. But these great commentators, they've explained that he's not a jnani, he's a bhakta. Otherwise, none of this stuff would have happened. He would not have direct audience with Vishnu. Vishnu would not have become his son. So they explain that love comes in flavors. Bhakti is love, and love comes in flavors. And not everybody has the same flavors. Not everybody likes the same flavors. There's 5 primary flavors in love, and then there's 7 secondary flavors that can be mixed with those, and then there's 33 emotions, which are like sprinkles on top. And not everybody has the same interest. Like, some people like pistachio ice cream the best, but some people don't like it at all. It's ice cream. They like ice cream. Everybody likes ice cream. So there's the ashraya and a vishaya for love. There's a lover and an object of love. The swabhava of the ashraya and the swabhava of the vishaya will determine the flavor, which is sometimes called a rasa or a bhava, of the love that goes between them. So, for example, if the ashraya of love, if the vishaya of love, if the object of love is a young child, and you're a young child too, then the flavor of love will tend towards being friendly and playful. If one is a child and the other is an adult, then the flavor of love will move towards what's called vatsalya, which means protectiveness. And protectiveness and refuge. Like, from the child's point of view, it's refuge. Vatsalyam is refuge, and from the adult's point of view, it's protectiveness. Care, concern. Now, if you're not a parent, you won't really be comfortable with that flavor of love for that person. It won't really be what you are into. Now, the 5 flavors of love, the first one is called Shuddha or Shanta, which is purity. It means absence of selfishness. That's the basis for all of the flavors of love. That's like the base of the ice cream. And then there's Priti, which means active affection, where you want to be of service to the person. And then there's Priyat Sakyam, where you actually become intimate with the person in a friendly way. And then there's Vatsalya, where you want to protect the child. And then there's something which goes by many names, but I think the base name is Priyata, which is love, like the love that you think of when you say the word love, romance. So now Kardama is a bhakta, but he has a flavor of bhakti. His flavor of bhakti is Shuddharati. He is a bhakta of Paramatma, of Shukla, of the great Vishnu, who's the essence of everything, and the embodiment of Brahman. He is fascinated and thrilled and delighted by experiencing the personal, direct manifestation of the ultimate reality. That's the extent of his love. And so when Vishnu is presenting himself to Kardama as a child. Kardama feels grateful and everything like that, but it just doesn't feel natural. So he prefers to go to his natural relationship. Thank you, Bardo, very much. Okay, so that's actually what's going on with Kardama. He doesn't want to be Vishnu's father. Like, he doesn't, that's not his relationship with Vishnu. He doesn't want it. Technically or objectively speaking, it's a more intimate or better relationship with Vishnu, but it's not his flavor. Each individual Atma has its own individual nature, Swabhava, and therefore it has tastes. And even though maybe on paper the chocolate is better than vanilla, I don't like chocolate. Give me vanilla. That's what's going on with Kardama. Make sense? You'll experience. We experience this basic thing all the time in everyday life because we have our world's facsimile of Vishnu's reality. So people always talk about friend zone. I love you as a friend and all that stuff. That's the same thing. This is not the flavor that suits me. This other flavor. Melissa, I'm not sure what you're saying. So see if you can ask your question in a different way. Meanwhile, I'll read you up to the end of the paragraph. If you have any questions, guys, you can type them in now. And meanwhile, I'll just read up to the end of the chapter, which talks about Kardama's leaving. The great news really is that next week we start the actual conversation between Kapila and Devahuti. Ms. Vinay says there are certain burdens that you cannot. I think I can understand that there are certain burdens that you cannot put on a child that you might want from Vishnu. I don't think it's like that because the bhakta doesn't want anything from Vishnu. The lover doesn't want anything from the beloved. The lover gives to the beloved. The thing is, I'm not your dad. I'm not your superior. So you want me to be your superior, you want me to take care of you, but that's not me. I'm not that person. I'm not superior. Kardama's realization of Vishnu is not compatible with a small child, with Vishnu being a small child. It's compatible with Vishnu being gigantic and blazingly white and the essence of everything in the universe. That's what makes him feel in love with Vishnu. And if Vishnu says, well, no, you're actually my dad and you can take care of me and I need some milk. Can you bring me a glass of milk? This breaks the whole mood. Melissa says, can we through kirtan cultivate a relationship with Krishna even though we're in Maya? This is the basic thing that Vyasadeva realized, which is why he wrote this book. That the answer is yes, that bhakti is an energy, is a shakti which can contact jiva, even though the jiva is in Maya, and can put it in relationship with Krishna. And so he encapsulated the bhakti in this book. Very good, Miss Vinay. Simone, Vishnu should have never told him anything. I wonder if he would have felt differently. Interesting. All right, Kardama's departure. Kapila had answered him completely. Kardama respectfully and affectionately walked clockwise around Kapila and then departed to the forest. Seeking only to find his inner self, he took a vow of silence and wandered through the land alone. This is a practice of sannyas that seems like none of the sannyasis know about. Take a vow of silence. Of course. Seeking only to find his inner self, he took a vow of silence and wandered through the land of Lun without lighting a fire or building a shelter. This is on the highest Paramahamsa. Remember we talked about how the four different types of humans do the 4 different stages of life in 4 different ways? And the Brahmanas are really at the extreme end of the spectrum on how they perform all of these things. Well, Kardama is even beyond that. Vishnu's reply to I want chocolate instead of vanilla is, okay, I'm chocolate for you. Vishnu is chocolate, vanilla, pistachio, and everything. Vishnu's reply is, okay, sorry I gave you pistachio. Okay, so he takes a vow of silence, wanders through the land alone without lighting a fire or building a shelter. He kept his mind wrapped in concentration on the spiritual substance beyond all cause and effects. That's Brahman. A substance void of material qualities, yet with special qualities of its own, which can only be experienced through completely sincere devotion. See, the beautiful thing about Kardama's relationship with Vishnu, and the reason why he's an important figure in the Bhagavatam, is because he's directly focused on all these really basic philosophical key points, which are the foundation for everything else. So these things can be described through people like Kardama. He keeps his mind wrapped in concentration on what? The spiritual substance that is beyond all cause and effects. That's Brahman. That's consciousness itself. Consciousness itself is this Brahman, which is beyond cause and effect. It's the basis for cause and effect. And it has no material qualities, yet it's not without quality. It has no material qualities, but it has its own intrinsic qualities, but you can't experience them with any material tool. You can experience them only through completely sincere devotion. They become revealed to you. Now Karma is saying, is it Brahman or Purusha? But Brahman and Purusha are the same thing. Purusha is Brahman. Brahman, Purusha, Bhagavan are the same thing, but perceived differently. What the people that have Kardama's flavor, the Shanta Bhaktas, what they're really turned on by is the fact that this is the ultimate reality right here in specific beauty. So that what they're turned on by is this is Purusha, the Atma, the Paramatma. Atma is specificity. I am experiencing the intrinsic qualities of the thing which is beyond all material qualities. That's the thing that tantalizes and thrills and delights them. They don't need anything beyond that. They don't need this guy to do activities or anything else. They just are fully enwrapped in that experience. Freed from self-importance, possessiveness, and separatism, he saw everything to be of the same substance as his own self. His contemplation, peaceful like a waveless ocean, could directly experience itself. Freed from all bonds, he completely and truly obtained transcendental, ecstatic devotion to the all-attractive son of Vasudeva, who he directly perceived everywhere. Good one, Karen. Who he directly perceived everywhere. For he could see that the all-attractive was the core of all beings, and that all beings were within the core of the all-attractive. Endowed with pure devotion for the all-attractive and devoid of all ambition and hatred, he became neutral towards everything and achieved the realm of the all-attractive. That's the end of the chapter. Next, so let me know if you have any questions about Kardama, that type of bhakti, which is really a transition bhakti between the Gyani, or the philosopher, and the Bhakta. It's like a twilight stage in between the two. And meanwhile, I'll leave you with this summary of the next group of chapters. The next group of chapters is Kapila's explanation of the spiritual science that leads to self-realization. So he's going to explain how his beloved mother can best liberate herself from suffering and confusion. And he delineates a science that rigorously enumerates all the elements of reality, thus allowing a clear distinction between the self and the non-self, between the subject and the object, between matter and spirit. So this is why his science is called Sankhya, because it enumerates. Sankhya means counting. He's going to enumerate everything. This is this. See this? This component is this. That component is that. This component is a third thing. There's three things involved in this. It's the relationship between these things. They're all related with these five things over here. This. And this, see this over here? This is consciousness. That's you. That's subject. These are objects. That's you. That's not you. He's going to delineate a science that rigorously enumerates all of the elements of reality, thus allowing a clear distinction between the self and the non-self, subject and object, matter and spirit. He explains the connection of the self to other selves and to the supreme self. It's going to be part of his explanation is how are the selves, the conscious entities, related to each other, and how are they related to the ultimate conscious self. And he's going to explain how to activate and participate in this relationship through the bond of divine love bhakti yoga, a yoga he defines thoroughly and recommends constantly. He also describes the embodied soul's path into and out of the depths of suffering and to achieve perfect liberation. At the end, he also explains all the reincarnations and things, and you'll hear a lot of interesting stuff about transmigration and into the different realms of existence that are hellish and paradisic and the liberation. So that's what's coming up. Kardama, question from Vidya. Kardama did not feel needed or unneeded in the presence of Vishnu. Yeah, I think he didn't feel needed. Can Brahman be a static potency in Purusha, the active form of Bingo? Karen, I thought Prakriti was the active form of Purusha. Prakriti is the Shakti of Purusha. So bingo, you're pretty close. But Purusha is the active or manifest Brahman. Bardo, I wonder when, if ever, Vishnu will decide to manifest as an avatar in female form. He always is doing that. I wonder when, if ever, you'll get a famous one recounted in here, and you will, and you already know about it. It's Mohini. But typically Vishnu doesn't present femininely. He does present very femininely, actually, but typically he presents a male form, a very femininely endowed male form, because he's not really the abode of love. He's not really the one who has mastered and understood the love. The love is mastered and understood by those who are experiencing him, and he's enjoying that. And so because that's the mastery of love is a feminine thing, so the entities relating to Vishnu tend to present in feminine form, and Vishnu himself, in reciprocation with that, tends to present in masculine form. Okay, guys. So I'll see you next week. Thank you for this time.